Welcome. Hello. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. Thanks so much for being here. Thanks so much for coming today. Welcome to Zenful Conversations podcast. My name is Zen Brown. I'm your host. And today we're here with Poet Spotlight, and we have the honor of speaking with poet Carol Alena Aronoff. I wanted to welcome you, Carol, to the living room studio. We've been doing these conversations a lot more on the relaxed side lately, and I'm liking it a lot more. I'm liking it a lot more. So let's just take a minute to breathe, to collect our breath because we've been rushing around here, and just a breath in silence for a moment, just a breath together, just to connect with the breath and settle the body, come into your body and ground for a breath or two. Okay. Um, there's a lot to cover today. Carol is quite a unique individual, and I'm just going to introduce her a little bit. Now, normally, I ask the guests to introduce themselves. This is rather new, actually, this Poet Spotlight. We've been doing this for, I think you're probably our fifth Poet Spotlight or something like that. And I have been asking them, normally I ask them to introduce themselves and share whatever it is that they want to share about it. But I'm going to brag for you a little bit since today is your birthday.
Thank you.
If you can believe that, I wanted to thank you for sharing part of your birthday here with us in this community, and let you know that we appreciate that. Let me turn this music down. Yeah, we appreciate you sharing part of your birthday here with us. So I'm gonna introduce you and brag on you a little bit. Carol Elena Aronoff is currently living in Hawaii. She was born in New York, and she is a psychologist, a teacher, a writer who co-founded SAGE, a psycho-spiritual program for elders. She helped guide a Tibetan Buddhist meditation center for 7 years, taught Eastern spirituality and healing practices, imagery, meditation, and women's health at San Francisco State University for nearly 14 years. She guided healing in nature retreats in Hawaii and the Southwest. She had a counseling practice in Marin County for many years. She co-authored Practical Buddhism, the Kagyu Path with Olnyadal. I'm not sure of that pronunciation. In 1989, she's edited 5 books and 4 meditation booklets on Tibetan Buddhism. Dr. Aronoff published a textbook, Compassionate Healing, Eastern Perspectives, in 1992. Her poetry has been published in too many places to mention. Um, and her poems have also appeared in numerous anthologies, which are too many to mention. She's received a prize in the 1999 2000 Common Ground Spiritual Poetry Contest, judged by Jane Hirschfield, and was twice a Pushcart Prize nominee. She won the Tiger's Eye contest on the writing life and was the judge for the Tiger's Eye Poetry Contest in 2008. She's published an extensive list, too many to mention. And she is here with us today. So thank you, Carol, for sharing time, space, and love with us, and a very, very happy birthday to you.
Thank you so much. And thank you for including me. It feels like a real honor to be here with you and with the community. And I'm really pleased to be here. And
Awesome.
I thought today I would focus on my latest book, my seventh full-length poetry collection called Solitary Solitude Sanctuary. I've also done 4 chapbooks. And the last couple of books have been very specifically themed and have come out of chance encounters, interviews I heard on the radio. With this book, it was an interview on NPR as I was driving, and it was with 2 people talking about juveniles in solitary confinement. I was so appalled by hearing about the long-lasting trauma and soul-destroying effects of this punishment that I felt I had to research it more. And so I started reading about solitary confinement, both for juveniles, children, and adults, and about the prisons they were held in. And as I was reading, I felt impelled to write about it and to explain why people got stuck in these places and how they managed. And I began to think also about my time. I was a postgraduate psychology intern for 5.5 years in VA hospitals, and similar actions were taken with veterans there, with patients on the psych wards, and how isolating it was, and how some people would come out more disturbed than when they went in. And I also had spent a year in a therapeutic, almost 2 years in a therapeutic, what became a therapeutic commune in London with David Cooper, who was considered a radical psychiatrist and visited by R.D. Laing. And I ended up working with a 19-year-old Canadian girl who was catatonic and completely isolated in her world, terrified, petrified, and seeing everything in 2 dimensions in black and white. And so it was a real journey. And I decided that I wanted to look at all facets of solitary confinement, mental illness, quarantine. I had, during the first year of the pandemic, I wrote 100 poems. And it was a very creative time for me, and did a chapbook on quarantine, on COVID, going nowhere during the time. And so I included some of those poems, and I started looking at solitary pursuits and careers like lighthouse keeper, night janitor, fire lookout, people who took jobs where they could basically be alone. And I started thinking about solitude, and here I wrote a number of persona poems. Some of the poems were about my own experiences. Solitude has been very important in my life. And then spiritual retreats. I started reading about the lives of saints and Tibetan yogis, and some were teachers that I had known. I had my own brief experiences with retreat, and then with finding sanctuary. And so what started as a response to an interview became much broader. And I found that most of us at times feel isolated. And at times it works for us, and at times it doesn't. And for us, often it's a choice, but for many people, they have no choice. And I wanted to bring more understanding and compassion to that area. And I thought I'd start with my first poem, if that's okay. It sort of sets the tone, and it's a persona poem written to an unknown prisoner, and it's called Letter to a Prisoner in Solitary. I need to tell you right away, I've never been to prison, not even as a visitor, though I lost my son behind bars to loneliness and neglect. I have no idea what it's like to spend whole days, weeks, years suspended in amber like an insect under glass or fish in a small solitary bowl, waiting for the few flakes of food, hour of caged exercise, the once-a-week shower that never leaves you feeling clean. Still, I feel impelled to write to you and hope this letter has slipped through the slot as companion to your evening meal? Does mail help you feel less alone? Does it matter that you don't know the sender? That it leaves your imagination free to conjure up a caring sister, worried mother, loving friend? Does it make a difference? Perhaps the paper itself, its thin body, curved blue letters, will be enough for you to feel like you've been touched. And the next one, which is what is called a box poem, I don't know if you can see it, but it's in the shape of a box to sort of increase the feeling of being confined. A child in solitary. A windowless box the size of a parking space. Now home. A walk-in closet with only a bed, sink, and toilet. No books, no papers or pens, no nothing. Some days the walls close in and monsters hang from the ceiling, trigger a tidal wave of terror. I am just 13. My crime, defending my mom from an abusive boyfriend and talking back to a nasty guard. I am living my own funeral. Some days I feel I no longer exist. I cut myself to see my blood. Write the word help.
Mm.
And I wanted to read one more, a poet in solitary. Each place has its own perfume. The tang of autumn leaves burning in rural Vermont, of pinon and juniper in high desert, the pungent potpourri of belching fumes and curry in Delhi, apples fermenting on the ground in Wenatchee. But this place has the stink of despair, of barely suppressed violence, the unwashed sweat of death. Any sweetness or subtle sense of peace lilies are left outside barred windows and gates, orphaned along with the dream of future and family. Within these punishing walls of confinement, barren of any trace of comfort or flowers of hope, this drug-addled cold turkey poet must find a way to reconstitute a world, at least in imagination and memory. A world of small kindnesses and beauty, where the spirit floats free and all sounds are church bells and jazzy percussion. The stainless steel toilet sink drinking fountain has taken on the glow of the thinker under moonlight, and like Rodin, I sculpt the vanquished, seeking rebirth.
Oh, let's take a breath there. Hold on. Let's pause and feel the hold up. Let that sit for a minute. That was a lot, Carol. All three of those poems are in this book.
Yes, they're in the beginning of the book, and they're the persona poems that I've also written about very specific prisoners and prisons. And those are even more difficult because of the way they were treated. There's a lot of racism involved, as you can imagine, especially in places like Angola. And people put in solitary for no good reason. And
Mhm.
what I learned was the extremes people will go to just to make some contact, to get to the infirmary, to have some voice or a touch, mutilation, all kinds of things out of desperation.
Continue.
I'd like to read this one poem because it really speaks to that, and it kind of, and again, it's another box poem shaped to accentuate the feeling of confinement. And this is about Herman Wallace, who was one of the Angola Three. And it begins with a quote from him. I'm often asked, what did I come to prison for? And now that I think about it, It doesn't matter what I came for. What matters now is what I leave with. And I can assure you, however I leave, I won't leave nothing behind. A man's history in 3 paces from toilet to cell door. The lie that kept him locked away for 40 years, 23 hours at a time in the hole, which is a term for solitary. A near empty box. Retaliation for speaking out, for shaping black bones and sinew into a prowl of panthers against inhumanity, torture, and slavery. Yes, sir, Angola, where officers called freemen work, where best behaved black prisoners known as houseboys wash guards' cars, clean their houses, water flowers, where a prison warden ignored the overturned convictions, kept Herman Wallace in solitary, feared blacks following after him for his radical, humane ideas. Not seen for decades by inmates, illnesses ignored till gravely ill, a judge released him. Liver cancer claimed his life 3 days later. I'm free, he said. I'm free. I'm free. So that kind of brings it, more home with someone very specific. And there are many, many stories like that. And I just felt impelled to write it, to let people know. I think it's something that's not known about. I know that they're now keeping juveniles out of solitary in most places, but for the adults, no. And there are supermax prisons and places like Angola where people are just tortured, basically, and either driven insane or physically ill and giving up hope. You know. So the book lightens up later on, but I felt like I wanted to bring this to the forefront because it affected me so deeply. I wanted to help bring understanding and compassion from other people.
There is a poem in the book that let me find it. The Art of Solitude.
Oh, yes.
Now that one was different and it caught my eye. Do you want to go ahead and read that one and then we can go into
Sure,
talking about your work some?
sure. Yeah, do you know what page it's on?
59, 59.
Oh, thank you. This was a fun one to write. The Art of Solitude. If someone approaches you and asks if you want company, say no. You don't have to be an island free of greening shores or empty your cupboards. You can take down no trespassing signs outside your bedroom window. There's no need to turn off your phone or stop the mail. Missionaries will forget to call once they know you've given up religion for the new year. You can tell people you're gone for the winter. The person they see buying chamomile tea at the grocery store must be a long lost relative. It's easier if you stay at home, no doppelgangers to worry about. In a crowd, you can always claim stolen identity, or that earbuds playing no music make it hard for you to hear. You can also look lost, stranger in unfamiliar territory, student of beginner's mind. Then it won't matter. Alone or not, your time will be worth something. That was one of my fun poems.
I read that in a yoga class the other day. Yeah, you want to get into a little bit of conversation of maybe why you write or how long you've been writing or something, go a little bit deeper into your writing, share a little bit of under a
Well,
couple layers.
I actually started writing when I was about 7 or 8. People would ask me, what do you want to be when you grow up? And for some reason, I would say an author, an artist, and a poet. No idea why. And I was kind of hyper as a child and very quick. And because my last name started with an A, I was always stuck in the front seat.
Yeah.
And in those days, the teachers would hand the papers out to each student. By the time the teacher got around to the last student, I'd finished the assignment, was wandering the aisles and talking to other kids. And so they had to try and keep me busy. And so they had my mother bring in clay and they had me drawing. And then in the third grade, a teacher got me writing poetry. Little poems, sometimes ekphrastic poems, write about this, painting. And that lasted for that grade. And then I didn't write again until college. I wrote a few poems, not very good ones. And I had never had a creative writing class. So my focus was psychology and holistic health and Tibetan Buddhism. And I was teaching at San Francisco State, and this was in the 90s. All of a sudden, I started getting images, and poems were just falling out of me. And I came to Hawaii, and I literally was walking around with a notebook and writing as I was walking. They were coming so fast, and there was no editing, and I knew nothing about what to do with poetry. And so and I think this was in 2002. I kept coming back to Hawaii and eventually moved here and was so inspired by nature and started having really spiritual experiences out in nature and at the sacred temples and was writing from that inspiration. And I went to a workshop in Taos and I met Andrea Watson there, who's an amazing publisher and poet. And I had written a poem about holy work about the Buddha. And she liked the poem and she said, let me work with you. And so she started mentoring me, editing my poems. And I don't remember exactly how, but I sent my first poem to Indian Heritage Society. I had spent almost 14 years, parts of every summer going to Hopi, to the um, to the Hopi reservation and helping with the planting and harvesting and going to the dances. And I had wanted to write about that, but it felt like such a sacred experience. I didn't want to write a memoir or anything. So I started writing poems and I sent one to Indian Heritage. And they asked me if I had any more poems. And I did. And eventually they published a chapbook called Corn Silk. And they took the book around the country to all the powwows, which thrilled me. I didn't care if they sold, but just the fact that they touched all these native places was really important and meaningful to me. And so then I started going to a couple of writers' conferences, a weekend workshop here and there. And I was writing every day. And I would look around my room and I'd write about the chair or the couch, and I'd go down to the temple and I'd see the hermit crabs. That would become a poem. It would just be an image, and that would be enough to start me writing. And then over the years, things started to slow down. I had a publisher for my first couple of books who I had edited Buddhist books for. And so he knew me and he liked my work. And so he was publishing my books until he retired. And then I would sort of move on to other publishers. Um, my chapbook, Tapestry of Secrets, was also a chance encounter. And these were almost all persona poems. I had gone into the bookstore at the Governor's Palace in Santa Fe and saw a book on conversos and crypto Jews. And it fascinated me. And apparently, these were people that were forced to convert to Christianity. They were being expelled from Spain and they were fleeing the Inquisition. And they came to New Mexico, among other places, and still practiced their rites and their tradition in secret. So I did a whole chapbook on that. And just from that began to write on other themes. During the pandemic, I did the chapbook on COVID, and the Black Lives Movement happened at that point, and that became the inspiration for another book. Um, and then I started putting together all my meditative poems. I've been a student of Tibetan Buddhism since the 70s in Scotland. And so that became the gift of not finding poems for meditation. And what started out as a way of processing my own life, uh, I started to feel like I wanted to be of benefit and to awaken more understanding and loving kindness and to help people move into presence, stillness, and their own true nature. And so my poetry now, I'm working on a new manuscript called The World's Need for Tenderness. It's about how do we navigate this difficult time, um, and stay kind and open. And so I'm hoping my poems will support that.
That was what I was going to ask you. What is, you're putting your heart on the page. By this stage of the game, you're not doing anything that's a waste of time. And I'm just wondering what it is that you're really hoping people get from your work in this world.
A way to stay open, compassionate, and kind, to keep their hearts open and to awaken as much as possible in this time when the word woke has become a curse word, a bad thing instead of an aspiration. And that's my,
Um, I'm just wondering if anybody has any questions they'd like to ask Carol at this point. A lot has been stirred, said. Any questions, comments, anything? In the chat, there was, will you be sure that you can, well, are your books, maybe you can provide where we can get the books or something in the chat. People are wanting to know where
Amazon.
they can get.
They're all on Amazon, and you can also text me if you would like me to send you a signed copy. So that would be the best thing.
Okay, cool. Cool.
And there are seven full-length collections and four chapbooks.
You have another poem you'd like to read for
Yeah.
us, or
So this is a poem from the quarantine time. What will carry us through? I'd like to offer you the stars at dawn, that brief but memorable twinkle in the eyes of the divine, that green flash at sunset, a murmuration of starlings. It doesn't matter if these wishes remain virtual, or that I cannot bring you a bottle of wine or cook you a meal. Doesn't even matter if we haven't spoken. What will carry us through and sustain us? The language and radiance of the heart, that rare perennial flower, always present, always accessible, no matter how isolated we are. And I thought I could read one about um, finding sanctuary. And what was interesting when I started looking at sanctuary, I discovered some really interesting things that I never knew about. This was all Middle Ages. One was priest holes, tiny little rooms, sometimes behind a fireplace in homes to protect the Catholic priests traveling through from the inquisitors. Sometimes they didn't survive. They had to stay there for 2 weeks. And the other one was something called the Scolder's Bridle. And that was an iron face mask with a spike piercing the tongue, um, that was used as punishment for women who upset their husbands or gossiped. And they had a choice. They would put this on, they couldn't eat, they couldn't speak, they'd be paraded throughout town. They could either accept that punishment or take sanctuary in a church. And many of them decided they'd rather be in the church. So I learned some really interesting things. And of course, now the issue of sanctuary and the problems that are going on. So I've written about that. But this is about how we find sanctuary in this world. To find sanctuary in the world, first sanctify the mind, oriented toward the sacred. Purify those swirling clouds of negativity, those thoughts and feelings of fear or despair that rise and fall away like so many autumn leaves in wind. At any moment, you can let them be, as if watching a movie of no interest. You can also see through them to the stillness and compassion, the true sanctuary that lies within. Make the ordinary holy with reverence and respect. Make washing dishes, sweeping floors a sacrament, conferring grace. Anything done with presence, full attention, brings forth the luminosity of spirit. You never know what form an angel or bodhisattva will assume. Never know what gifts there are at a laundromat or waiting for a train. Find beauty in imperfection in the most unlikely places, even in darkest times. The glitter of an old tin can in sunlight, cry of a vulture sweeping down for its evening meal, the lone flower on a child's grave. Seek solitude in nature, the solace of starlings and sycamores.
Mm. You could definitely have something to say, it's very powerful and I think very much appreciated.
Thank you.
It's courageous to write about what you write about. And I thank you for doing that. Um, do you have a reflective question for conversation with everybody or
And I have a
some?
poem to read about that.
Okay.
My question has to do with how do we stay soft and open in times of chaos, callousness, or cruelty, whether it's on the news or in our communities or in our own personal lives? I just feel like it's the important question right now, along with what we can do. And this is a poem that's part of my new manuscript, The World's Need for Tenderness, called In the Dark Times. It is hard to be tender when bones are sticking in your throat and knives have shattered every norm. When minute by minute horrors screech their swan songs and what you never thought would happen occurs again and again. It is impossible to look away. With shards of glass from broken promises, my innermost heart has been pierced by sorrow. I've been holding my breath since the fall, reluctant to exhale for fear of what I might breathe in, the toxic fumes of intolerance, hatred, the frozen wasteland left by those afraid of difference. But then, when I finally exhale, I find that kindness and compassion are still the antidotes for cruelty. And as the air around me lightens, I feel my heart break open, send out love and healing to even the darkest corners.
Ooh, well, that is the question.
And it's something I think we have to reflect on every moment, every day. I know I
Joe, do you want to say something, Joe? No, okay. Thought you were raising your hand there. Does anybody want to comment on that? Come on, y'all.
write.
I know you're not that quiet. Go ahead, Julia. Everybody's
I
polite.
I actually was going to go back a couple steps before reflecting on this question, but thank you, Carol. I had two questions. One was they're both a little more technical. One is the I'm fascinated with the crypto situation. I was just talking with a friend about that not too long ago, and like this unique faith that was like hybridized and all that kind of, it was very interesting. What is the name of your the chapbook on that?
It's called Tapestry of Secrets.
Tapestry of Secrets. And then my next question is, what's a chapbook? I have
Oh,
never
a
heard that term
chapbook,
before.
it's a small collection, usually around 25 poems, and it's bound a little bit differently. Let me see. Oh, I don't have one right with me, but there's just a smaller little book. And this one was Finishing Line Press. It actually won, it was a finalist in the New Mexico, Arizona Book Awards, which was very exciting for me. Um, and I not only wrote about a family, it was these were persona poems, but I discovered that there were Jewish pirates in the Caribbean. One was a rabbi. There's a book called Jewish Pirates of the Caribbean, which completely fascinated me. I wrote about Christopher Columbus. There's some belief that he was a crypto Jew, that his name was Christoph Colon, and he was from Portugal, and that he left the day after, in 1492, the day after Tisha B'Av, which was a Jewish holiday, when they were being expelled, and that his translator spoke Hebrew. And there's there's some interesting information. I don't know how true it is that he founded a crypto-Jewish colony in Jamaica, and that he would sign things with a signet that was a Kabbalistic symbol. So I wrote about him as well, and about he never made it to America, actually. But and we don't know if he really was Italian. There's a lot of myth, but reading I read a lot of books about the crypto Jews but the Jewish Pirates of the Caribbean was my favorite. Yeah.
Thank you. And while I have my unmute off and reflection of the question, what immediately came to me when you asked the question was a prompt for me to write, and the guy on my left. You know how in war you just focus on the person on your left, the soldier on your left. That's the person that I'm going to give loving kindness to, the person on my left. Like, and I'll be interested to see what comes out of that
I
prompt.
like that reminds me of a really interesting story by Robert Thurman, who is a Tibetan Buddhist teacher. He talks about the Bodhisattva, the one who is devoted to being of benefit. And he said, imagine that you're in the New York subway on a train and the car is closed and you're stuck in that car with those people forever. At which point it becomes very practical to make sure the people next to you are happy. I've always remembered that. So it's very similar to the person on the left.
Very good. Thanks. Thanks, Julia. Thanks, Julia.
I
Anybody
was just to
else?
make a comment. Just the reason why I don't have any questions is I guess her poetry is so clear and self-explanatory and gives a vivid image. I really applaud you on your poetry and your writings. I'm enjoying them. So I don't really have any questions, but I just really enjoy listening
Thank
to
you.
your outlook on life.
Awesome. And thank you for being here too, Cheryl. Yeah, it's a lot to just because there's no questions doesn't mean anything except we're in the moment letting it seep in. You know, there's not always we have to do questions of anything. It's really I'm kind of re-listening to it in my head in my quiet spaces between these words. I'm like hearing these words again coming from you, Carol. uh, it's really awesome, awesome work. Um, but I would love a little bit more conversation on this question that she posed us. Grace, please. Yeah, you're on mute, sweetheart. One more time. Let's try it that way.
My phone is
There
not,
you go.
there we go. My phone was going kind of goofy. Um, yeah, I admire the writings too, and I also admire the I guess you would say the basis of the meditation part, and I can never pronounce that word that you said a little while ago, but Bodhisattva? I don't know.
Bodhisattva.
Okay, thank you. Um, I moved where I'm at about a year and a half ago, and I am very much, would you say, in solitary, basically, because I have found it very difficult to make friends where I'm at. And the one or two friends that I have, really, we don't have much of anything in common. So I'm at a place right now where I related and felt your earlier your poems that you read today because I have meditated um and back home, which it was Heartland, Wisconsin. um I participated in a weekly 2 hour Monday night meditation group. And I miss that. And
Yeah,
I've been kind of pushing myself to stay here but at the same time dreaming about moving back because my good friends are there and my family is near there. And but anyway, I want to say I felt those solitary poems, and um it is a loneliness. It is a very lonely time for me. And so that kind of that I would be interested too if you could like put a link or some type of, where your poems are at so that we can buy a book or,
yeah.
look at them.
They're all on Amazon. That's probably
All
the,
on Amazon?
they're all
Okay.
on Amazon. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
And if you're on Facebook,
Uh-huh.
uh, occasionally there's a group that Kai Kagan runs called Wednesday Night Poetry. And she used to do it weekly. Now it's a pop-up every once in a while. And poets will come on and each read a poem. There are a number of online communities, both meditation and poetry. So it's just a matter of, hooking into the groups. There's one called Monthly Pause with James Crew, and he does interviews and writing prompts, and there's a community there. So my
Okay.
community is mostly virtual now as well, because I haven't been traveling off the island much. So it's another way of, moving out of isolation.
I do participate in the month or weekly connection and creativity with from Christina
Yeah,
Norcross
yeah,
on Facebook,
that's
which is
another.
it's very nice too.
Yeah.
Thank
There,
you.
there's the Raft, which is an online community that Phyllis Cole Dye does, and it's on Substack. And there's a wonderful group, and I know Tammy, you're part of it. I recognize you from it. Um, and I think Julie too. I've seen you pop up. And that's something that's really been very rewarding to participate in. And it's mostly free, which helps. Though you can subscribe to be a patron for a very modest amount. Um, but that has a weekly poetry pick-me-up where the group shares poems that are of another author, not your own, but another author. And then it always leads to a really rich discussion.
And
That's
what is that called?
weekly.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's called The Raft.
Oh, that's the raft.
The Raft. If you look it up and
Yeah, that's with Phyllis Cole Dye.
yeah, with
That's
Phyllis.
with Phyllis Cole Dye, and I love her too. But there's also this little community. every Tuesday,
Yeah.
every Thursday,
Oh,
and there's also guided meditations and a lot of other things here too. But for me, that's why these are here, is because that is my what I'm doing to offer more tenderness and more love. And I needed it myself. I need my practice. I mean, these have been some incredible times, and my practice demanded more of me for me to stay level-headed. And so that's what I'm doing here, you know. And I think the only thing we really can do is increase the love energy we're sending out.
yeah.
It's my
And
part
wherever
of that.
we are, going to the grocery store, I mean, wherever we encounter other people on the road, just I find if I can find something nice to say about the cashier at the register or that it can make their day. And it it takes so little to be kind, really.
It's true. I went to breakfast this morning with my guy, and I have these little stones that say peace on them. Sometimes I do love, sometimes I do gratitude. Right now, I happen to have peace. And I brought it to this restaurant and I gave it to three different people. And I'm gonna tell you, these people nearly cried
Yeah.
so it's important to just increase ours. And then of course that makes me feel better too. But let somebody else talk. Who else has something to say here? Annette, did you want to say a little bit more on that, or are you good?
Well, I might just add that another thing I do is I subscribe to various poetry newsletters, and there are all kinds of them out there. Um, and I get a poem a day. Rattle has one, a poem a day that comes in. There's your daily poem. Phyllis has one on the raft called the Daily Boost. The different things that it's a great way to start your day. At least for my day, I often get a prompt out of it and then sometimes go right to the computer. And it's usually something that's soul satisfying. I guess that's what I would call it, something that's tender or something other than the news, something that feeds your soul a little bit. And so those daily newsletters have been terrific. And if you go on Substack and just put in, say, poetry, you'll get several that pop up. Austin Kleon is another one I like to follow because he's just fun. uh, and he has his top 10 things every week, and it's way more than I can read it, even get through in a week, but I'll pick a couple and go down the rabbit hole. And I've met other people. Um, and just doing that from newsletters, if I see a poet I like, I might find them online and email them and just find out more about it. And I've made some wonderful friends online, which um, has really been interesting.
Nice.
Yeah, for sure. This virtual world has been very interesting. I've been pleasantly surprised with it, and I love it.
Good.
It's surprising, but it has so many great, great, beautiful features. It's not it can't replace human connection, but I'll be darned, it's pretty cool because I love that it's like-minded people for the most part, and I don't have to tiptoe on what I say most of the time, and y'all can relate. Not everybody can relate. So, uh, Carol, thank you, Annette.
But I
Your
asked,
work.
could I just
Go
ask,
ahead.
Grace, you said something about being from Wisconsin. Are you in Wisconsin now? Oh, you're muted.
You're back on mute, Grace.
I was thinking. Yeah, I'm in central Wisconsin now. Ripon. It's a little
Oh, well,
community of about 7,800 people. Central.
I'm in
Yeah.
Green Bay, and if you do you
Oh, okay.
know about the Wisconsin Fellowship of Poets?
Okay.
Christina is involved in it because I know Christina Norcross, but we have a really, really active group in Wisconsin, and it's divided into regions. And if you went on WFOP.org for your region, I'm in the Northeast, so I'm connected with a lot of poets in this area. But you can connect in person because there are in-person readings everywhere throughout Wisconsin, constant, if you want to connect in person with people.
Okay.
Very
There
cool.
is a group, I guess, in Appleton that meets too, and that's about 45, 50 minutes from me, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah,
My
that's
thing is driving at night. I'm kind of, I
well,
don't
I
see as
think
well.
Right.
that's
I
poetry.
think you got enough to go off of though.
Yeah, there's
To
Poetry Unlocked. That's the group in Appleton. They meet virtually throughout the winter now. And I used to drive down to that group all the time, but I'm tired of driving at night too. So I just do the online group. And then there are all kinds of other activities that are happening during the summertime and spring and fall. Appleton just had a poetry walk. Um, and that was fun for the month of October. Poets had their poems posted in windows, and then there was a group walk. So there are
Oh,
lots of things that if you look, and it'll probably be looking through, well, following certain, like Catherine Cofell is the poet laureate of Appleton right now.
okay.
Follow her on Facebook, you'll see events coming up. But the Wisconsin Fellowship has events listed all the time online.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
awesome.
Nice.
I wanted to Carol, your work I would say is definitely spiritual, right? Do you want to talk a little bit about that at all?
Well, I think I've spoken to that in terms of what my purpose is in writing. And as I said, I've been a student of Tibetan Buddhism for many, many years, and practice meditation and really practice kindness. That
Hmm.
Dalai Lama says his religion is kindness. And so it's not just sitting on the chair and meditating, it's what you do in the world. And for me right now, it's through my writing and through any encounters that I have, trying to stay aware, to be in touch with as much as possible the deeper knowingness.
Hmm.
And what writing is one way I connect to that.
Do you want to talk at all about your practice or process or anything like that?
Not really. It's pretty simple. But I'd love to read a poem if I
Sounds
could.
perfect. Sounds
So
perfect.
feels like this poem works for this time, especially during the holidays. It's called Make Offerings. Make offerings to those you venerate, Buddha, Bodhisattvas, the ones who dedicate their lives for us, Jesus, Mary, Mother of Mercy, all the saints who help with everyday things. Burn incense for the unnameable divine. Offer prayers to deities, to mythic gods and goddesses, to one or many, to the all. Remember the ancestors. When you're out in nature, build a shrine of stones and flowers. A single piece of fruit will do. Feel the rain of blessings, then offer them to city dwellers, to those who live in caves. When you're eating, offer food to those who have none, and pray that everyone can eat as well as you do. Light a candle for those in darkness. Light the room with gratitude for whatever you can think of. Offer up everything, night terrors, the bliss of loving freely, hopes and fears that make us human and bind us to each other. Feed the hungry ghosts and demons. When you're down or lonely, make offerings. When you're waiting for your ride and traffic jams will cause you to be late, make offerings. Use your imagination. Always give more than you receive. A smile, a large gratuity for the waitress working 2 shifts in a row. Kiss the postman for not opening your mail. Worship generosity. You cannot share too much. If you give everything away, you'll find that you have more than you ever dreamed of. When you are ill, pray that through your illness, others will not suffer. Offer them your healing and exchange it for their misery or pain. Breathe in the hardship. Breathe in, transform the violence of the world. Breathe out your love and let it radiate to fill all space. Keep something in your pocket for those who have less. Help clear your elderly neighbor's yard. Fertilize her lawn with kindness, the key to ahimsa, no harm. Make every moment an offering. Supplicate for peace. Sing the praises of garbage collectors and window cleaners. Prostrate to waterfalls and elephants. Call on Tara, Saint Teresa. Pray for travelers who help in war-torn places. Each prayer of thankfulness, each petition will set a butterfly free and warm the hand of a political prisoner, giving small comfort. Light butter lamps and bonfires. Make offerings as if your life depended on it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any more sharing, discussion? Yeah, what's the title of that poem?
Make offerings. And I think it kind of summarizes my practice in a way. And that's from the meditative book, The Gift of Not Finding, Poems from
The
Meditation.
Gift of Not Finding? What a great title.
And that's sort of nature of mind teachings. If you look for the mind, for the origin of thoughts, you can't find anything. And you rest in awareness.
Any more community sharing?
I just want to say that thank you for that poem. I do think in general that like giving thanks, expressing gratitude is a cure for most of our ills. So thank you.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to that as well. Um, well, any final words or a final poem,
I have a final
Carol?
poem, actually, and it's from the same book. And it's definitely a meditative poem. Might be a nice way to end. I just have to find it. It's called The Gift of Not Finding. Place your mind softly as silk curtains in the stillness of space. Let mind's whisper fade like sunset, subtle traces, intimate with sky. Rest in awareness, all-inclusive, luminous presence, invariably filling, forming, emptying, changeless as mirror, ephemeral home to passers-by. Stillness undisturbed by movement, experiencer, just another experience. Where is the one who knows this? Where is the one who cannot be found?
Any final words?
That's it.
That's it.
Be kind.
Yeah, no, that's it. That's it. What I'd like to do is go around and um ask what you're leaving here with today instead of our final word. What are you leaving here with today? No pressure to talk fast. But what are you leaving here with today? And if you don't want to be on camera and you don't want to answer this question, just shut your camera off and I'll go past you. Um, But what are you leaving here with today, Annette?
Oh gosh. One thing is I was really moved by your poems of the voices of people in prison, and I think I'm leaving here with how can we help give voice to the people that are oppressed and pushed in the background? I think that's a really important job for those of us who have it, where we're more visible. How do we help those people be seen?
Thank you, Annette. Thank you, Annette. Tammy.
I saw some conversation between your poems and some by Jimmy Santiago Baca, who was in prison in solitary confinement for a while. Um, And I guess that just reminds me like of the maybe none of us that feeling being solitude can be a difficult feeling, but sometimes if we like work through it, there can be fruit. So because I sometimes feel that way too. So anyway, that's a reminder that we're not alone and that we can reach out to others.
Nice. Thanks, Tammy. Cheryl.
I guess I'm just leaving with a different perspective of looking on things, and in regards to the prisoners as well. I don't think I've really thought too much about being empathetic, if I'm going to be 100% honest, because I've run into some violent offenders myself and wished them to be uh, not too happy once they were incarcerated. So it's a different way of looking at things for sure, a different perspective from my point of view.
Awesome. Thanks for saying that. Thanks for being here.
Thanks.
Marilyn.
Hi, I'm leaving here today with a lot of gratitude for Carol, her poetry, and for the group, and of course Jen for putting our community together. Gratitude and nourished. When I attend these and leave, I feel very nourished. So it is like-minded people, and I appreciate that. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. T.
I'm very moved by the wonderful unfolding of this session because it began with poems that were difficult to hear about isolated people. But then when one member among us was courageous enough to express her own feelings of isolation, so many of us just were so willing to begin offering helpful advice and resources and to comfort her. And I saw both the difficult and the love that resists cruelty and difficulty at the same time. And so that's what I'll take away from this.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm glad you noticed that. And thanks for bringing it to the forefront because I think I noticed it. I'm pretty sure we all noticed it. But to actually say it and we witnessed it is really pretty cool. Thanks for putting that on the table like that. That is really cool. Thanks. Julia.
Yeah, I am leaving with the story of unfolding, Carol, of how when you were young, the writing was there and how it returned to you after a whole different practice and how it came to you. And I don't know, I just resonate with that. And I guess sort of the invitation to embrace that myself.
Oh, nice. You're welcome.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Grace.
Well, I'm taking away something from everyone here, all the comments, and um, the poems on isolation were very moving. And the other thing I'm taking away is the as Carol said about being more gracious and have more gratitude and being kind to people, because I think it's been tougher for me to do that in the recent months, being kind to others on a regular basis, because I feel more isolated, and maybe that's kind of turning negatively on me, maybe, if that makes sense. Um, I have a neighbor that uh, knocks on my door at least probably once a week on average, looking to get a ride to the store. And in the beginning, I was, okay, give me 10 minutes to, change or get my stuff together. But in the last couple of weeks, I've been kind of like not answering the door. Um, or if I do answer the door, I just say, I just got home from being gone all day. Sorry, I can't. And they knocked on the door again today, and I was getting dressed. I had just gotten out of the shower, but I think it was her again. And Carol, when talking about compassion and being nice and kind, that resonated with me a little bit today. Not that I have to give her a ride every time, but like I said, lately I've been either ignoring her knock or just saying no. And so, yeah, that I think the meditation part of it and all that you talk about with your experiences with, meditation and prayer and kindness and all that comes from that. I think I need to work on that. So that's my biggest thing I'm taking away.
Thanks for being here today, Grace.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you. Brenda.
Okay, well, I think it's really easy to kind of fall into feeling helpless and hopeless in the face of so much suffering that we hear about. But it's good to be reminded there are always ways that we can offer more kindness. Thank you.
Thank you. And Joey put in the comments that Joe is leaving with waterfalls and elephants. They'll be in her dreams, no doubt. Thank you everyone for sharing such wonderful, wonderful words. Let's have um, a breath together for Carol. Just closing your eyes, perhaps your hand over your heart. Taking a breath together for her work in this world, for her courage, and the way she is showing up. Carol, may you keep trusting what wants to come through you to be shared. May you always feel how much it matters. As we celebrate your birthday today, may you move into this new year of life. May your work stay close to your body, your heart, to what's true. Thank you for giving us your time, your words, your love. It means so much that you chose to be here with us on your birthday, and we are grateful for you. So with that, let's just rest in a quiet gratitude together for a couple breaths. Right, and thank you. Carol, thanks again for being here with us. It just a joy. that you said yes. I want to thank you for saying yes.
Oh, and thank you for inviting me. It's really been wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. So Carol, Alena Aronoff, find all her books, she says, on Amazon. And if you just reach out to me, I can connect you if you would like a direct contact. Please visit zenfulconversations.com for more of these free offerings. And thank you, everybody, so much for supporting this virtual space. In deep gratitude. Namaste. Bye, everyone.
Bye.